Okay, and this part is very important, or it starts to really be very important that we follow the trajectories. That's why this tool that I'm mentioning to you, in order to see and make sure that everything is creating like a good trajectory, or use this body here. A good way to help yourself to make sure that you are doing good trajectories, something that you can do is to either follow it up. So when you are animating, like say, for example, in this movement, something that I can do is just very simply using my tool. It's like, okay, I'm gonna follow up. You can use as reference some parts of the body that you can see that are very easy to follow up, right? Like this line here that I have in between the hand and the sweater. So I just follow up. I do this one. Sorry, I should do this too. Puck, 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 and I finish. For example, that's a good way to see, okay, more or less that the spacing is working, what I have, and the kind of trajectory that I have in. But also what I can do, and for example, in this example, what I did before doing your animation, you can just draw it. You can just say, okay, I want to do this kind of trajectory with my hand. Okay, so the only thing that you have to do then is to animate and to match whatever that is the trajectory that you want to do. That's a very good technique too. Okay, so very quickly, before I'd like just to comment on this part here, where the character is just looking around, and we have those flowing movements of the eyes and eye darts. Very quickly, I like to comment. Try to be very simple, and try to be also, let's say, don't go and do the whole thing in once. What I mean, when you copy this, try to make it work, or try to do it little by little. Work first with the overall part of the overall part shape of the body of the eye. So you make sure that at least that flowing feeling that that the eyes are doing, you have that. Then you jump into the um, the iris and the pupil, right? You have the frames, so there's no way that you can do it too fast or too short. Just make sure that you have each deformation in each frame that has to be, and not only for that particular moment where we have those blinks. For the whole animation, try to, when you copy this animation in this stage, try to be on the right timing, with the right deformation, with the right timing, right? That is the way that is going to really help you to understand how are the deformations and how is the transition and the transformation of the character working through each frame, right? So do this copying little by little. Don't get too complicated. Don't get lost. Okay. So once the whole eye is working, then do the eyebrow, and see how everything is starting to work little by little as you add the layers, because that's something part of the work. I'm doing that knowing that where am I going, right? I've done that knowing that it will work anyways, right? So it's not that I do everything in all parts of the eye frame by frame. I focus in each part of the eye. Let's say I differentiate and I work in the overall shape with the eyelids, then iris and pupils, and then I do the eyebrows, right? So that's how I recommend you to proceed in order to copy, just so you understand more or less how everything connects to each other and integrates, right? So and again, this is something that the more you do it, the more you're gonna get used to know in the next time you do it. You're gonna have the confidence that even working little by little, you know that you're going towards one direction, right? So take it easy, do part by part, okay? And I copy it exactly in the right frame and with the kind of like same kind of deformation as much as possible. That's why I have big playlists for you guys, so you can really get like close and then see everything. And also you have the file, right? So don't be afraid to just jump into the file and to explore how everything is working more or less. Something that I also love to work a lot and is to use the deformers, like the ones that we have for smears and all that, to add secondary animation on top of something that I've already done with my primary. For example, if we look at this turn of the head here, you see how the head or the nose or the face is doing that kind of like double like bounce, or there's like a circular movement happening in the face, right? Right, boom, boom. So that's something that I have done using my my lattices. So simply speaking, it's the turn of the head has a very simple kind of transition where I've been using the Animbot tool for the ease in and ease outs. But then I work with this control here in order to add that kind of curve or a sense of curve. I could have done this, for example, using the offset of the head, for example, same as we've done with the hand. But for head movement and for hand detailing, I really like to also use my lattices in order to add that kind of deformation where everything is moving but in different proportion, right? It's not that the whole head is moving. As you can see, probably the one that is more moving is my nose, but it's not moving as much as the ear is moving, right? So I love to adding details to those kind of transitions, or maybe overshoots, or when he is doing some kind of accent, and add a layer with that control. So in a very fast way, but easy and very organic, you add a lot of life to that. So this is something that you can explore. Just do a pass of that control as the whole character is moving, right? Very quickly, you're gonna see how the result is like, oh, nice. It feels good. And now jumping into a little bit of the latest things that I do when I am finishing a pass on this stage for the shot is working on secondaries. The whole, as if you remember.
So,
in this case, for example, what I've done is
to know is that it doesn't just start automatically. You can't just leap in there and do De Niro.
Hairs of the character. Just working with those two is a very good way to train yourself in order to get good and simple secondaries working on. You could have used another different tool that lots of studios and people has. This called like JFlex, which is basically adding secondaries on top. But sometimes I like to do it just by myself, because sometimes I have more controls of what things are happening. But when you don't have enough time, maybe you want to use one of those flex kind of thing. Anyways, when I'm doing secondaries, my focus mostly, I only do the secondary works at the tail or at the end of movements. I don't really work too much, or I don't really worry too much on adding secondary movement when actually big movements or movements are in the middle. I don't really want to work on follow-throughs or overlaps. I just want to, for example, show those kind of when the character arrives to something, to some kind of pose.
Automatically, you can't just leap in there and.
As you can see, how the hairs are arriving a little bit later and are reacting a little bit later to what is going on in the head, right? So I don't spend too much time working on all of it. I just go for those parts of the movements where the character is just doing medium fast movements, and just adding a little bit of those details. If the character is moving too fast, usually I don't even do any kind of secondaries, because it already probably has, the whole character already has a lot of movements and things going on, so I don't really need to add something more. the point, that the thing is, what I want to say in all this is that why are we doing secondaries? Okay, true, is because we have a part of the body that otherwise, if we leave it like that, is gonna stay too stiff. But I like to think that secondaries are, like for example idlers, are great to keep the character alive in a very easy and effective and fun way. Is like, for example, when in manga they are great adding secondaries while the character is just holding still, looking at some place, and maybe we just have like a very simple hair movement, right? They are great doing fast animation in a way that still looks like good enough. Not good enough, I mean, it's not overdone. Sometimes humans, as we mentioned before, we're not all the time moving, right? And so we tend to fail many times in animation to over animate the things in order to keep the things moving and giving the impression that the character is alive. And sometimes we don't really need to go that far in order to give the impression that the character is alive. So that's why I always encourage people to do poses, to hold the poses, and to do like tiny little changes in head shakes or hands or the eyelids, or in this case, the secondary of the hairs, in order to keep the character alive, to give the impression that the character is alive without the need of doing any kind of weird change pose or yeah, like pushing other kind of animation that really, we don't really need that. So if the characters are really moving a lot, probably you don't really need to do that kind of movement with the secondary. Maybe you just need to add like a little drag or something. But usually, if you look at the shot again,
De Niro or walking.
You're gonna see that.
So let's say I'm
doing secondary animation of those two hairs.
Colin Firth.
When
How do I
when the character is doing, like for example in there, that turn. Too many things are already moving. I don't even care. I'm just doing like a simple, I just bring it there, do like a very simple drag in one frame and in the next frame there. And I could have saved my time actually doing that, because you're not gonna notice.
How do
There's already lots of things happening with the legs and with the hand that really is not going to be that interesting.
The first thing I do is take
when you do a pass
Colin inside of me.
Working on secondaries, and in this case working with hair, try to also be simple, right? Try to also get like double bounces, like if I'm doing some kind of movement. Of course the hair, for example, what it's doing is just reaching a point that is the limit, then going back, which is also going to be a limit, and maybe another one. So you can do like two kind of overshoots, 1, 2, and then the latest one. And for that, since usually you reach this stage where the characters are already, you're being already putting like a lot of time in this, or usually working on characters is like, or working on secondaries is like, okay, I don't have time, I have to show it now, or I have to show it very soon, or I'm done and I'm blind, I cannot keep working. I always try to do it in a way that is simple and still is efficient. So basically, all the secondaries that you see in the shot, most of it is just working with this control here. Most of it, right? You don't need more, actually. So just by rotation and translation, okay, you're doing that.